It's a Christmas tradition for many. A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens' 1843 story of the iconic miser Ebenezer Scrooge, is one of the most popular Christmas stories to this day.
The classic has been produced as books, plays, and movies in just about every genre, from drama to musical to comedy, and it's even starred cartoon ducks and Muppets.
But did you know Ebenezer Scrooge was based on a real person? Here's a quick look at the four Scrooges that reportedly inspired Dickens' Scrooge.
Let's dig into this.
Many believe John Elwes was the inspiration for Scrooge, and he is a good candidate. He was born in 1714 and named John Megget, and by the time he was 4 years old, his father had died and reportedly left him a fortune from his brewing business. Despite being fantastically rich, Megget grew up pinching pennies with his eccentric mother, who starved to death because she refused to spend their fortune.
Megget looked up to his uncle, Sir Henry Elwes, and often imitated him. Sir John was a member of Parliament and another notorious miser. Megget changed his name legally to John Elwes to inherit his uncle's fortune, and eventually ended up receiving almost 4 times what his father had left when his rich uncle died. But he still pinched every single penny.
He went to bed when the sun went down so he didn't have to buy candles. He ate old, moldy, and even rotting food, never wasting anything. And he even reportedly was not above taking a bird away that a rat had dragged out of the river, eating it himself.
His clothes were dirty and tattered, and he went around town wearing a wig he had found in a bush. He refused to pay for a coach even in the worst weather, and would not pay for wood for a fire to even dry himself off or keep warm.
He successfully ran for Parliament and served 3 terms, and was extremely generous with his money when it came to his friends, reportedly never asking anyone to repay a loan. He once loaned a friend thousands of pounds to bet at the racetrack, and then showed up himself with only 2-month-old pancake he had found in his pocket to eat all day.
Dickens used Jemmy Woods as inspiration in several of his books, and with good reason. Mr. Wood was famous throughout Britain for being an amazing cheapskate. He was known to go to the boat docks at night to pick up coal spilled when being loaded and unloaded from ships, and wearing the same clothes until they couldn't be worn any more. He was also just plain mean.
Jimmy Woods was possibly Britain's first millionaire. He owned Glasgow Oil Banks, a draper's business, and lots of land both in and around the city of Glasgow. He had no children to leave his fortune to, and the only people who received any of it were the lawyers who fought for years, taking most of the money in legal fees.
Many believe Scrooge was based on John Dickens. He and his wife Elizabeth had 8 children, and Charles was the second born child and the oldest son. John worked as a clerk and had great difficulties paying the bills for his ever growing family. In the early 1820s, all the family household goods, including furniture and silverware, were sold to pay debts.
By February of 1824, John Dickens ended up in debtor's prison, and by April, his wife and 4 youngest children were taken there too. Charles Dickens, just 12 years old, was forced to get a job in a factory and become the head of the family. After a wealthy aunt died, leaving enough to pay for the debts, the Dickens family was finally released.
But the bills added up, and a few years later, John was back in debtor's prison, only released when his son Charles borrowed from friends to pay the debts. John repaid him by writing to the friends that had loaned Charles money, asking for more. This would become a habit, and as Charles Dickens became more famous, it would become extremely embarrassing.
Dickens called his father a jovial opportunist who didn't have any sense with money, so probably not the model for a Scrooge.
There is a famous story that the character of Scrooge came to Dickens after he had been walking through the Canongate churchyard in Edinburgh, Scotland. He had seen the gravestone of Ebenezer Lennox Scroggins, and under this name Dickens read the words "mean man." Traditionally, this was the space for a man's occupation to be listed, and what was really on the headstone was mealman. Scroggins was a corn or grain merchant.
Mean in those days meant cheap. So when Dickens misread the headstone, he wondered what exactly a man had to do to be remembered for an eternity as a mean man.
The real Ebenezer Scroggins was supposedly quite the fun guy, enjoying life to its fullest. He reportedly pinched a countess on the steps of a church and had at least one affair with one of his servants, resulting in a child. A far cry from Dickens' Scrooge character.
Unfortunately, the tombstone was lost or destroyed when the graveyard was going through renovations in the 1930s, leading many to question if the whole story was a hoax in the first place.
Let us know what you think in the comments about these Scrooges.
And thanks for watching.
Hey, here's another Dragon Den video you might like.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.
And you can hit the notification bell if you'd like to know when our videos come out.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.